Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamey Daddy channel. Today I wanted to talk about an opportunity that I see for Tom Clancy's The Division 2 to thrive. But before I jump into the video, I want to go ahead and say thank you so much to everyone who supported me all through 2020. It's been such a roller coaster ride. Many things have taken place, but it's still very, very interesting to be in this community, on this forum, talking about The Division from this perspective. I appreciate all of you who have joined. Those of you who have been members, those of you who have participated with your builds, sharing your showcase and your expertise with the community. This is such an amazing, amazing community. And that's one of the reasons I've stuck around, even though there have been many times I've considered actually quitting and dropping The Division, because yes, it is tough. But as somebody who wants to be a loyalist, it's very difficult. And I'm so happy that you guys have been able to stick with me, hold me accountable, chide me when I, veer off the path. I really do appreciate it very much. And so let's jump into the video. So Tom Clancy's The Division 2 right now, we're in a down state. And for the longest time, we were proposing, in many cases, those of us who were kind of looking at Ubisoft and Massive's pattern of releasing content and all that stuff, that there was going to be a year 3. And then at some point, I think I changed my tune and I said, I don't think it's likely because it doesn't seem like it follows all the other releases that are out there. But then something changed. Cyberpunk 2077 came out and the game basically fell flat on its face. And when I say fell flat on its face, I know someone's going to take, some level of offense against that. But here's the truth. Here's the reality. Cyberpunk 2077 is an incomplete ancient game. Basically, the concept that was dreamt up in 2012 is not necessarily able to fulfill the standards of 2020. That's what we're seeing. There's a disconnect. If you had made Cyberpunk 2077 perhaps in 2013, 2015, it would have been probably a fun game. It would have been accepted. But then you have games like Far Cry and you have other games like Red Dead Redemption that have come out that have built open, intricate worlds and have actually changed the course of gaming for a long time. If you think I'm making this stuff up, there's a channel right now that's actually gaining a lot of traction showing physics in Far Cry 5 compared to Cyberpunk 2077, and the margin is not even close. Far Cry 5 absolutely takes a stick and beats Cyberpunk 2077 when it comes to iteration, when it comes to physics, when it comes to game design, and all kinds of other things. It's unfortunate, but seems like Ubisoft, Rockstar, and all these other companies, they know their craft. They've had their bad days, but they seem to have learned a lot of, lessons. They're still learning. There are some things that we would say Ubisoft is falling short on consistently, but at the same time, we have to also say that there are things that they're progressing on consistently as well. If you even think about Watch Dogs, one of the biggest things that Watch Dogs had a criticism for was it was kind of just boring and dry. I think Watch Dogs is basically the concept that Cyberpunk was trying to achieve, but Watch Dogs just happened to do it in a much more modern time. Forward thinking is something that a lot of gaming companies must have and seem to have in order for them to be at least successful. Now, how does this come into our Division 2 discussion with Year 3? Well, it provides Massive Ubisoft with an opportunity. One of the biggest concerns I have with Ubisoft Massive, which is the studio that developed the Division 2, is their time management, the way that they use their time and their expertise and the development talent that they have in the studio. I know I've seen a lot of comments saying that Division 2 is a dumpster fire, blah, 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 blah. To be honest, at this point, if you don't like the game, then you will never like a Division game. Even when they make a Division 3, you're most likely going to find something to complain about. The best thing I can say is at this point, you understand that the franchise is no longer for you. So best thing is to basically just fold your arms and close your wallet and don't support the game. But there's some of us that do enjoy the game, and I would say that this concern is at the point that Massive needs to learn and use their time and development, windows very, very meticulously, because we don't have all that time in the world, just like they seem to have, I would say, position themselves in their discussions and their state of the games and their interaction with the community. And what do I mean? I want to draw your attention back to the beta mode for hardcore, the hardcore mode for the Division 2. Actually, if you guys don't know, there's a mode in your game that's in beta. It's been in beta for such a long time. I don't even remember. I think it's probably going on a year now that this mode has been in beta. And I remember they released it in the middle of a content drought. It seemed like it was something that, was going to kind of hold off the community for a little bit. I think that's probably what they used it for. But I remember that I think it was Yannick or somebody on the development community side community development side, saying that it was a mode that a segment of the development team was excited about, and they started prototyping and checking out, and they wanted to just drop it so we could actually, have conversations around it, get feedback and all of that stuff. And I remember that they explicitly said that this did not take away from the development time or from the development cycle, of what they were working on. At this point, they were working on Warlords of New York. I personally feel that that was actually a waste of time because, ladies and gentlemen, if we go back and look at hardcore mode right now, what you're going to see is it's not actually gone past the beta phase. And so if they're not going to be doing anything with it, or if they haven't done anything with it, let me not assume that they're not going to be doing anything with it, but I would just say for now, we haven't seen any advancement to the mode or any updates or upgrades or having the mode finalized. I can just safely say that it was a waste of development space. I think genuinely, whenever you have in game development teams, you have people who are conceptualizing, building prototypes. I think if you're able to deploy a beta of a prototype, then in my opinion, it needs to be fleshed out, because hardcore mode could have been fleshed out in all kinds of different ways to have content available for year 3 to keep the player base going. Rather than doing the seasonal model, yes, you could put the seasonal model in also a third-year content model, and it will have a much more robust content pieces, put together in that sense, or a more robust content piece, I guess I should say that correctly, put together and packaged and given to the community. Because if you look at hardcore mode, it basically can write its own rules. It basically can go its own direction. It basically can implement its own systems. And right now, it's just sitting in beta. An opportunity that is not being harnessed is a waste. This is, I think, one of the biggest problems and complaints of many people in the community, is that the division has so much potential, but sometimes it fails to realize it. Now, I understand there are constraints. There are aspects where massive Ubisoft usually takes on more than, many development teams would. Right now, they're working on Avatar. Some of probably their more talented, designers and developers are on that project. And the rumor is that somewhere, somehow in the corner, the Division 3 is actually being cooked up in as a side dish, because I would say it's a side dish because they already have architecture from 1 to experience. So putting together 3, in my opinion, should not be as challenging or difficult as the way they built Division 1. And so taking on all of these things and then supporting the Division 2 is most likely stretching them thin. And even still, they might even be in a place where they're probably prototyping other concepts and trying to store them for the future. If they're probably going to be approved by the top dogs or maybe, discarded, these are things that still go on in a studio because, you don't want to have a narrow focus in business. You want to at least have a narrow, implementation, so that, what you're implementing comes out the best it can be, but you want to keep your eyes open to other opportunities. Now, hardcore mode may never be fleshed out to be more than a beta, and if this is not the case, then fine. But at least now that Cyberpunk 2077 is not being this huge game of the year, attraction that it was touted to be by everyone who thought that, the hype was going to equal the game's, prowess. I guess it now stands that massive Ubisoft needs to now leverage the time to bring out a year 3. I know I'm probably going to get the Outriders comment, but to be very fair and to be honest, I don't believe in any game anymore until I play that game for myself. It's just the way a lot of games look from, presentation and from marketing and from a lot of stuff. But one thing that I've noticed is whenever a game starts to, bring out its marketing and hype it in a weird way, they do it in different ways. Many development teams and even publishers usually control the way they actually discuss these games. I don't think there's much that I need to say other than I'm going to be waiting for that. But I'll do in my other video from this conversation, I'll talk more about Outriders and what impact they may have on the Division 2. So Ubisoft Massive you're sitting on a golden opportunity right now. There are very few games out there that would challenge the Division for the concept that it is. I give my own, I'll give the credit where credit is due. They were able to bring this concept to the market that no one has actually tried to touch. A third-person RPG looter shooter set in a realistic open world, post-pandemic, and a live service support game that has some of the more complex math, min-maxing, and programming that you can actually find in many other video games. You're not going to find it anywhere. The only problem is we just happen to find it here, and so we're just going to camp here for the while, and we're hoping that somebody's able to bring something to the market. But meanwhile, Massive Ubisoft needs to continue to use its time very wisely, harness that, and serve its community. If you continue to do this, you're gonna sell way more copies of the Division 3 than you did Division 2. Now, I don't know about Division 1. Y'all botched that one up. It really literally cost you guys your entire reputation almost. But at least if you want to salvage that, this is the path to walk. It will be a challenging path. It might be a path that actually is something that you will take a loss on, but it's a loss that you're going to take on for a very temporary, time. Imagine bringing, whatever content that you may have been prototyping, you pull it out the shelf and say, let's flesh this out. Let's get this all branded and polished up, and let's bring it to the community for a small, I will say a small fee, whatever it is. And please don't bring raids. Don't do that. You could just maybe do an incursion just to kind of like incite some excitement to the Division 1 fans. But at the end of the day, Massive Ubisoft knows exactly what to do. The question is, are they gonna do it? Thank you for listening to the video. I appreciate you guys a lot. Peace.